All right, future legal eagles, welcome. If you're a first-year law student, you're probably neck-deep in persons and family relations right now. So today, we are going to zero in on the absolute foundation, Chapter 1 of the Family Code. We're going to break down the essential and formal requisites of marriage in the Philippines. Let's get right into this legal blueprint.
First up, Article 1. Now, this definition looks simple enough, right? But trust me, every single word here is packed with legal meaning. You see the phrases special contract and permanent union? That's your first clue. It tells you right off the bat that the law sees marriage as way more than just a private deal between two people. It's an inviolable social institution that the state itself is sworn to protect.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start with the basics, what makes marriage so special in the eyes of the law. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the who and the how, which are your essential and formal requisites. After that, we'll see what happens when things go wrong, tackle that super important distinction between void and voidable marriages, and then wrap it all up with why any of this stuff matters in the first place.
Okay, let's lay the groundwork. Before we get into any of the rules, you've got to understand why marriage isn't just another contract you can sign. This idea is the cornerstone of everything else in family law. This slide really puts it all into perspective. With a normal contract, you and the other party call the shots. You set the terms, and you can even agree to just end it. But marriage, that's a whole different ballgame. The state basically becomes a third party to your marriage contract. You can't just make up your own rules or decide it's over. The law dictates everything, the nature, the consequences, because the public has an interest in keeping families stable. So, with that foundation in place, let's get to our first set of requirements, the essential requisites. I want you to think of these as the absolute non-negotiable pillars of the marriage. This is all about the who, the actual people getting married.
And there are only two of them. That's it. Legal capacity and consent. You need to burn this into your brain. If either one of these is completely missing from the very start, you simply do not have a marriage. It's that critical.
So let's unpack legal capacity. It's really a three-part test. 1, the parties have to be a man and a woman. 2, they must be at least 18 years old. And 3, there can't be any legal impediment stopping them, like, already being married to someone else. And here's a huge point. If one of the parties is under 18, that marriage is absolutely void. No amount of parental consent can fix it.
And now for consent. Look, this is so much more than just saying, I do at the altar. The law is looking for consent that is real, voluntary, and intelligent. It has to be a genuine, conscious decision to get married, made without anyone forcing you or tricking you. It's about what you truly want on the inside being spoken out loud on the outside in front of the right official.
Okay, we've got the who covered. Now, let's move on to the how, the formal requisites. These are the procedural steps, the official process and paperwork that the law requires to make the marriage legit. And just like the essentials, there's a clear list. 3 things. You need an authorized person to officiate, a judge, a priest, and so on. You need a valid marriage license, which is basically the government's permission slip. And finally, you have to have an actual ceremony where you both show up in person and say your I do's.
Now, I really want to double-click on that marriage license. Its complete, total absence is fatal to the marriage. If you get married without any license whatsoever, that marriage is void ab initio, void from the very beginning. You can't go get one later and try to fix it. It's a deal breaker.
Okay, but this brings up a classic law school question, one that always trips people up. What happens if you have a license, but maybe you didn't get it the right way? Maybe there was a mistake in the paperwork. Is the marriage still good?
And here is the million-dollar answer. The complete absence of something like a license makes a marriage void. But a mere irregularity, say getting the license in a town where neither of you lives, does not kill the marriage. The law actually protects the validity of the marriage in those cases. But the person who messed up could be held liable for it. That distinction is key.
So, what happens when you don't follow the legal blueprint correctly? Well, then you end up with what we call defective marriages. Think of these as, construction defects in the legal structure. And each type of flaw has a very specific legal consequence.
This slide boils it down perfectly. If you're completely missing a key ingredient, an essential requisite like consent, or a formal one like a license, the marriage is void. It's a total nullity. But if all the ingredients are there, but one of them is flawed, like your consent was a result of fraud or force, the marriage is voidable. It's actually valid, but it can be canceled.
Let's be crystal clear about what void means. Void ab initio is a legal fiction.
It means for all legal purposes, the law looks back and says that marriage never, ever happened. It's a complete nothing from day one, producing no legal effects, except for a few specific rules about kids and property.
All right, let's really dig into this now, because this is one of the most important distinctions you're going to have to master in this subject. Getting the difference between a void and an avoidable marriage straight is absolutely fundamental.
Okay, everybody, this is the money slide. Screenshot this, tattoo it on your arm, whatever you need to do. A void marriage, legally, never happened. You can't fix it, you can't ratify it, and you can challenge it any time. Avoidable marriage, on the other hand, is perfectly valid until a court says it's not. It can be fixed or ratified if the parties just continue living together and you're on a clock. The right to annul it expires. This table is your cheat sheet.
So what are the specific flaws that make a marriage voidable? Here you go. You'll notice a pattern here, right? Most of these are about a problem with consent. You were too young and didn't have parental consent, you weren't of sound mind, or you were tricked or forced. The last two are about being unable to fulfill basic marital obligations. None of these make the marriage automatically dead, but they give the wronged person an escape hatch through annulment.
Now let's pivot back to a major reason for a void marriage, psychological incapacity, under Article 36. This is one of the trickiest, most debated concepts in family law. And we are not talking about just being immature or having fights. We're talking about a genuine, profound personality disorder that makes someone fundamentally incapable of understanding and performing their essential marital duties.
Over the years, the Supreme Court has basically given us a 3-point checklist to prove psychological incapacity. First, it has to be grave. This has to be a serious issue. Second, it must have juridical antecedents, which is a fancy way of saying the condition had to exist at the time of the wedding, even if nobody knew it. And third, it has to be incurable. Let me tell you, proving all three of these is a very high bar to clear.
So after going through all these super specific technical rules, you might be wondering why? Why is the law so incredibly strict about all of this? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture. The bottom line is, this detailed legal blueprint isn't just a bunch of random red tape. Every single rule is there for a reason, to make sure everyone knows who is married and who isn't, to protect the husband, the wife, and especially their children, and to support the state's belief that the family is the most important, most stable building block of our entire society. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. All these rules really highlight this constant push and pull in family law, this tension between the state's goal of protecting marriage as an institution and the right of every individual to be happy and choose their own path. And that's a question that lawyers, judges, and all of us, really, are still figuring out every single day.